He continues to be serious student of constitutional law, economics, political science, sociology, philosophy, apart from English and Telugu literature, an ardent lover of classic music, acknowledged to be good speaker in English and Telugu. Justice Sudarshan Reddy Garu assumed the office of Chief Justice of Guwahati High Court on 5th December 2005. His Lordship is elevated as the Judge of Supreme Court with effect from 12th January 2007. His Lordship retired as Judge of Supreme Court on 17th July 2011. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I know how difficult it is to speak at 1:15 p.m. few minutes away from lunch. It always happens when you'll be speaking in the last. President of this meet, a long-standing friend, Sri Shyam, Professor Rama Melkote, a distinguished political scientist, and Sri Gopal Krishna Garu, a veteran administrator and a former Special Chief Secretary, Government of Andhra Pradesh, with only 50 years of experience on the administrative side. Sri Janardhan Reddy Garu, my friend Sri Kamlakar Rao and Shravan. I find many distinguished guests in the audience, Sri Ramchandra Murthy. Needs no introduction. And we have Dr. Vinod Kumar, Ambassador, Sri Panduranga Reddy, a noted and a well-known historian, ladies and gentlemen. A few introductory observations. I shall try to be very brief for various reasons. I thought I would deliver a structured speech befitting the occasion. When I started writing, I was stuck somewhere, and it remains to be disjointed notes. I may borrow from those disjointed notes if such an occasion arises. The forum is launched. Its task and agenda is set by none other than the distinguished speaker, Sri Gopal Krishna. What it is expected to do and how it is expected to proceed. And after an excellent speech and analysis of democracy, about which she has been teaching all her lifetime, my task has become easy. Forum for Democracy and Global Peace. I do not know much about global peace. I will leave it to the ambassador sitting here, because I have seen the quarreling amongst the distinguished diplomats as to whether they should condemn the naked aggression of Ukraine by the Soviet Union. What is the compromise? Compromise is every nation is entitled to protect its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Ukraine's territorial integrity is violated with impunity. It's now almost a broken country, but the world leaders pick up no courage to say it's a war, naked war declared by Soviet Union. Therefore, I won't speak anything about the world peace, lest the ambassador may get upset about it. I have seen the tagline of the forum: non-political, non-profit. Sir, what is non-political about democracy? How can you talk about democracy being non-political? You say non-partisan, thereby saying not affiliated to any political party. That is the biggest danger. When we talk to the people, no, we don't talk about politics. Do you exercise your right to vote or not? Do you go to the polling booth and exercise your preference, indicate your preference? On the other day, I was talking to some students. Students who would like to enter into the profession. That's my profession, the fraternity. I was asking, interacting with them, whether right to vote is a constitutional right or a statutory right. None of them could respond. Of course, they have indulged in some guesswork. Universal adult suffrage is a constitutional right. And this was discussed. And the only point on which there was an agreement between Mahatma and Baba Saheb in the round table conference was about the universal adult suffrage. But when we talk about democracy, normally we understand it elections. That's why we have successfully reduced constitutional democracy into electionocracy. There is a general feeling, I do not know how many of you will agree, people do not like their politicians as at present. I am not talking about any particular leader or any unpopular leader or a popular leader or a populist leader. I am generally talking about the political class. Why the people look at them and started, I don't use any strong expression, but at least disliking them. Why? Why is it called a political class? Because a group supposedly led by career politicians. They come from various political formations called the political parties, about which I will briefly make a mention. But why? Why have we reached such a stage? This phenomena has resulted political leaders and politicians withdrawing into protected space of political institutions and people withdrawing from the political process altogether. This is the biggest danger to the democracy as I perceive it to be today. Constitution preamble begins with we the people. It's a misnomer that they were sitting together and they have written something, our founding fathers and mothers. There were 11 Constituent Assembly members, women, whose names are never mentioned in the debate, even the judgments when referring to the Constituent Assembly debates. We the people constitute India. Of course, Bharat comes later into Article 1, into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. It's a constitutional democracy. The essence of constitutional democracy is division of power, checks and balances, autonomous institutions. What have we done? Autonomous institutions either caving in and expressing their obedience in anticipation, anticipatory obedience, or they are being attacked. So where do we go from here? Both the learned predecessor speakers mentioned about it. Do we go back to that definition of the people, by the people, and for the people? Where are they? Where are we the people? These are some of the questions that require to be debated in this forum. Frequently, preferably perhaps in a round table conference, in small groups, and don't hire these big halls and hold these type of meetings. That culture in Hyderabad has disappeared. Nobody comes to listen to you. We sit, talk and deliberate. Every time if we find one new entrant, that would be an achievement. Is the democracy best form of the government? Nobody said it. It is the best form of the government. It is the best form of the government because no other form is better than that government. Once Churchill famously said, "No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all-wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except all those other forms that have been tried from time to time." That's why we are wedded to democracy. And that's why I said ours is not a mere democracy, but a constitutional democracy. A mention was made by the distinguished speaker. We speak about more of the rights and less of the duties. I'm in complete agreement with a small rider. Rights are of the people. Sovereignty rests with the people. Duties are that of the state. Fundamental rights are guaranteed. Fundamental duties are not guaranteed. They are recognized. which are unspoken. There are many duties whose details are not mentioned in the Constitution. Should somebody need tell us, respect your national flag, stand up during play of national anthem? But yet we have chosen to incorporate such things into our Constitution as fundamental duties. We talk about these fundamental duties, but we don't talk about the fundamental duties to promote the scientific temperament. And go back thousands and thousands years back. Can democracy, constitutional democracy, survive without following this fundamental duty of promoting the scientific temper? That quest for knowledge? But these are the questions which we have to discuss and deliberate. It is very difficult to speak when there is no topic. So therefore, here and there and here, it happens. It's bound to happen. Is politics dominated by a narrow caste of political professionals? Or politicians, I am not saying this, a political scientist said this, Michael Kenny. Are politicians preponderantly corrupt and self-serving? And has a populist desire to follow, not lead, public opinion resulted in the dangerous weakening of the principle of representation that underpins parliamentary democracy? This is what is happening. Populist desire to follow. This was, I think, almost 15 years back, this political scientist said it. Not lead. You are not leading the people. You want them to follow you. That will lead to authoritarianism. It's a very popular term in vogue nowadays. But it should not be confused with the fascism of 30s, military dictatorships, oligarchies, monarchies, even democracies, but not republics. Saudi Arabia also claims to be a democracy. United Arab Emirates also claims to be democracy, but they are not republics. But ours is a sovereign socialist democratic republic. Authoritarianism is always, in the present day context, is supported by the electoral mandate. It is not that somebody has come and sitting there, grabbing the chair and dictating the terms. They duly get elected. Therefore, we should not confuse and loosely use the expression and only expression perhaps that may characterize the present democratic scenario in the country is it has acquired the character of authoritarianism, if not anything more than that. Having said this, what do we do? We talk about the electoral reforms. We talk about the proportional representation. We talk about the list system. There are many democratic organizations. For years together they have been pleading for this. We have already added a 10th schedule to the Constitution of India concerning the defections of the elected representatives. But the proportionate representation, list system, may further strengthen the authoritarianism. Because these concepts we have borrowed from the Western countries, and we have not tried, but we are pleading for their experimentation here. The problem is that all the members of the Constituent Assembly, our forefathers and mothers, did not lay much emphasis to ensure the complete purity of elections. And all the laws that were framed at that time by the learned personalities, including political activists, did not foresee the determination of a political class to violate the law and the Constitution. So when we talk about the reforms, electoral reforms, and the role of the Election Commission, we have to be a little bit careful. Now a bill is coming day after tomorrow, or perhaps after 2 days or 3 days, about the Election Commission. I have seen that bill. It speaks about the independence of the Chief Election Commissioner. Good, but not about his colleagues. The problem is this: Election Commission doesn't have its own staff to supervise and conduct the elections throughout the country and the states. Sri Gopal Krishna Garu would say much about it on some day. 15 days, 20 days, 30 days, when the code of conduct is promulgated, they come under our control. It's a myth. It's nonsensical. We know who are the bosses who call the shots, how the transfers are made. So some mechanism is required to be devised, providing the services of civil servants and keeping at the disposal of the election commission at least for a period of 6 months. It doesn't mean that the developmental activities come to a standstill. Nobody can plead for that. What are those great developmental activities? A project to be inaugurated which is not ready. And if the election commission stops it, you will turn around and say that the developmental activities are being stalled. These are the issues with which you are required to grapple. I know a couple of them sitting on the dais belong to a particular political formation. But yet I pick up my courage and say today, the political parties as they stand today are the biggest threat to constitutional democracy. Mind you, as a responsible citizen, I am making this statement with all the responsibility. Unless a constitutional mechanism is devised regulating the formation of the political parties and ensuring their accountability, particularly in relation to the financial assets that are accumulated, and a mechanism providing for internal democracy in the political parties. This is imperative because the political process is becoming increasingly regionalized. May I request all of you are informed citizens, look at the structures, look at the formations, look at the successions in the regional political parties. Is it antithetical to democracy, the very idea of democracy? That's why I said universal adult suffrage, right to vote, and who are the persons who are in management of this political process, which ultimately leads to exercise of your option and one or the other coming into power. This is the most difficult task before the country. Existing laws do not support to bring any changes in the manner I am suggesting. Perhaps a constitutional amendment may be required, which we have already experimented with the 10th schedule. Before 10th schedule, there is no mention of a political party in the Constitution. For the first time, the Constitution recognized the political parties as an instrument of democracy in the 10th schedule.